the Chinese government speaking directly to Outfront today after Trump issued this warning to China today about his tariff war.
I'm not going to drop them unless they give us something that's, substantial. Otherwise, I'm not going to drop them.
All right. The spokesman for the Chinese embassy had a long conversation with Outfront today and said, quote, since the U.S. initiated these unilateral tariffs, if it sincerely wishes to resolve the issues, it must completely abolish all unilateral tariffs on China. All unilateral tariffs. That's not just coming down half or three. That's all. He then went on to say, and I quote again, China and the U.S. are not having any consultation or negotiation on tariffs. The U.S. should stop creating confusion. Dan Ives and Peter Tuchman are here. And Dan, look, the embassy spokesman there, very clear. They said no consultations or negotiations are going on right now. Now, Trump obviously has very directly said otherwise. So what is all of this doing?
Look, and Peter and I have talked about it's creating mass confusion in the market because at the end of the day, everyone wants to understand when deals actually get done and when real talks are getting done. And we've talked about it, is that time's ticking. You have, 2.5 weeks in terms of when we're actually going to see the shortages. Yeah, by your math,
we're getting up close to 2.
About 2.5 weeks till the shortages, till the price increases. And it comes down to, talk's cheap. The market at this point, and Peter will talk about it, market's up because you're anticipating now, backs against wall, you got to get deals done. But time's ticking. You got to get deals done, I believe, starting this weekend.
So, Peter, the Time magazine interview, Trump gave the impression he had talked to Xi. Right. I mean, it was very clear. He wanted everyone to think he had talked to Xi about the tariffs. But the way he said it was, Time said, will you call President Xi if he doesn't call you? Trump, no. Time, you won't? Trump, nope. Time, has he called you yet? Yep. When did he call you? He's called. And I don't think that's a sign of weakness on his behalf. Okay, he's called. And then pressed by CNN on when, did you talk to him since the tariffs? Did you talk to him 2 years ago? When did you talk to him? Trump said this.
I don't want to comment on that, but I've spoken to him many times.
Okay, so that was clearly not talking to him about the tariffs right now. So, what are the impact of these games?
It's baffling to me. I've been trying to be the cup half full person in the room for the last bunch of days with you guys, and it's getting to the point where it doesn't really make any sense. I mean, it's even though the market is up 4 days in a row, and that could be just smart investors knowing that some deal has to be on the table and has to be made because the alternative is really dark. Right, it's what Dan calls, it's supply chain Armageddon, right? And so that's not really an alternative that we can handle. But it just doesn't make sense. Why? I don't understand the game that they're playing. It makes absolutely no sense. If they were talking, they would say they were talking. That would show some kind of positivity. One of them or both would. I mean, what a great thing that would be if the two of them actually, said we are talking in this. Why are we playing that game? Where, look, it's not going to affect me on a day-to-day basis. There are people's lives who are being impacted hugely. Yes. Right, maybe not us, but there are millions of people who voted for Mr. Trump, right, across the country who literally may have wanted to retire at the end of this year, who are living paycheck to paycheck, who may have had a small 401k or something,
or 201k,
or which is now a 201k. Yeah. I don't get that. It's disrespectful at best.
I think to his point, I think that the big issue here is that who do you believe? In terms of so now something comes out 2 hours later, and then there's another message. Market at this point, they're giving benefit of the doubt. That's why stocks are up this week. But going into next week, you need deals.
Yeah. And of course, as you point out, I mean, you don't want to be in a position where you're saying, well, nobody trusts China, so we can be as untrustworthy as China on our word of what we say is happening. It's not the U.S. way.
And then you're playing poker with yourself, too.
Right. And that's what he's done so far. Okay. I want on the whiteboard. This is something you pointed out. Okay. It's something called blank shipping, right? All right. Blank shipping. So I'm just going to draw a container ship. Blank sailing. I'm not going to put a sail on it because it's a big cargo ship. But you got a big cargo ship here, okay? Usually it's full of cargo on the top. Beginning of the year, these ships leaving Asia, 0% of them were skipping ports. They were going to every port. They were picking up what they had. Containers were full. 100%. Okay, now 40%. These are the numbers you're pointing to, Dan. As many as 40% of these ships Guess what?
That's
Okay,
Bypassing
this is May's
ports,
schedule.
and they do not
Bypassing
have-
ports. So they're
inventory is down 40%.
and ships have to go when they have to go. You can't just sit around and wait. So they're going with just a few containers on them. Just these half-empty, who knows what, from 0% to 40.
And just think about what it's going to look like over the next week, 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And that's why deals need to get done, because this is what business leaders from e-commerce, across every industry are basically saying, like, time's ticking, and guess what's going to happen? Shortages, massive price increases, and that's where, look, we just talked about, for the U.S. consumer hasn't seen it yet.
No.
It's come, look, remember, it goes back to, like, it's like being on a beach, and all of a sudden, like, you're in the ocean, there's no water. You're like, oh, this is crazy.
I'm gonna run out and check it
I'm gonna
out.
run out. You're like, no, it's because the tsunami's coming. So the point is that the reality is that he needs to get deals done.
But because this is this question, Peter, that I'm trying to understand. With China, a deal doesn't just happen with a snap and a finger and a go. No. I mean, at least there would be nothing to indicate that that's how it's going to happen. But we're in a situation where if you look at the ships and you look at what's happening, right, that can be a blip. Only if you have an immediate sudden change afterwards.
The logistics of I'm working with a guy named Andrew Sopko, who runs a company called Batch. We've talked about how AI is coming into the logistics space around trucking in the United States, and how complicated that is, and how important it is that every little check. The trucks have to be full, they have to be on time. All of that works. Think about it. When you're only going at 40% inventory, that's going to start. So the ship lines are going to be losing money. Everybody is going to start losing.
You don't
money
get
along
your
the way.
inventory, then I don't get mine. They don't get theirs.
Then if it opens up back up, those are all late.
And then you've even talked about, you're talking about even like Christmas. Think, like, the point is the supply. That's what we're dealing with.
And the retailers, those small businesses, and we talk about the stuffed animal company, they're saying they put in their order for 80% of their sales, Christmas, by the end of May.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's normal.
That is the lead time for this thing. And that's the lead time that's going to start affecting when it starts affecting food and all kinds of other, look, you saw that with Target and Walmart. Actually, the CEOs of a lot of the retailers went to the White House apparently to talk and say, this is real for us.
And how do you price it? Because you don't know what you're pricing. And you've talked about that.
Huge uncertainty. Well, here we are, another weekend, and again, the market hoping, right? Because the market's
Sunday
saying,
night.
got to be a deal because the alternative is so horrific it can't contemplate.
Correct.
It
And
at this point.
the market felt strong. It was the advances versus declines were good. The buy side felt like it was buying with intent. So there are buyers in the wings, right? And somebody that must be smart money thinking that a deal has to be made because the alternative is really ugly.
All right. Thank you both.